So my pal Sean hosted a BT5 Winner Mat tournament the other day, and the winner of that event was Tuga Evo playing green OTK. I was so impressed with his list that I decided to actually play it myself in a local a few days later, and I won the local going undefeated, and I think the deck was super awesome. And since then, I've actually done some more testing with it, and I find it to be the best variant of green we have right now in the Digimon TCG. And seeing as I've never actually made a video before talking about green OTK, I figured it was time to finally talk about this awesome archetype. So with that said, let's get started. Welcome back everyone, my name is Steven Rodriguez, I'm your true champion, and that is right. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Tuga Evo's first place green OTK deck list, and all the accoutrement that goes with it, and why I think it's the best green archetype in this new format of Battle of Omni. Now, while it is true that green got a lot of new toys from BT5, there's nothing wrong with taking an already awesome archetype, adding a few cards that make it more consistent, and then just continuing to play it, and that's what green OTK is, and honestly, I really like the deck and can't wait to share it with you guys. A couple things though that I do want to mention is that I feel like green as a whole isn't really well placed in this current format because of the popularity of purple decks, as well as like Lord Nightmon sort of being complicated to play against if the opponent knows what they're doing and can play around your Nidhoggmons. So just keep that in mind. This deck might not be the easiest to win with, but I definitely think it's a good deck and you should probably give it a try. If you guys get any value out of this video or are just excited for some more Digimon content, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And if there's any other decks popping up in the BT5 format you want to see me talk about, be sure to let me know down below in the comments. One last shout out to Tuga Evo for absolutely kicking butt at Sean's event with green OTK. Let's talk about the deck list. Alright y'all, here we are, the tabletop setup, and I've never really been the biggest fan of green OTK. I always thought the BT4 deck lists were a little off, questionable choices here and there, but with the inclusion of some awesome BT5 cards, this deck actually slaps, and I cannot wait to talk about it. Starting off, of course, we have the Digi Eggs. We have a new inclusion here in 4 copies of Yokomon. This deck is like the epitome of let's use all the good Digiburst cards, and this is the first one. Your turn, when this card is trashed, due to activating this Digimon's Digiburst, one of your Digimon gets power plus 2,000 for the turn. Really awesome, pumps your big Grand Kuwagamon, so sometimes you don't even need to have Palmon underneath your stack in order to make sure you can survive for your 3 security checks. Really, really cool. We also have 1 copy of Budmon. Your turn, while this Digimon has Digiburst, it gets power plus 1000 DP. It can make your 7000 DP Lilamon into an 8000 and your 11,000 DP Grand Kuwaga into a 12,000. Really nice for swinging over things if you find yourself in that position. Super solid egg lineup, would not change a thing. Moving on, we have the level 3s. Starting off here, we have a little mini package in the form of 4 copies of Promo Palmon and 2 copies of the Common Palmon from BT5. So, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, the $35 or whatever price it is now, Palmon has the really cool inheritable effect. Your turn, when this card is trashed due to activating this Digimon's Digiburst, one of your Digimon gains jamming. It is the facilitator for the big, like, double Digiburst, Grand Kuwaga, 3 damage, evolve into Chaos, 3 more damage play that gave this deck its green OTK name. However, we have the new inclusion in Common Palmon that has a super sick effect that says on deletion, place 1 Palmon from your trash under one of your green Digimon at the bottom of its Digivolution cards. This is not only nice for reusing this Palmon, but for doing some really crazy plays with Nidhoggmon actually. So a common thing that happens a lot is you're 1 source shy from being able to use Nidhogg's Digiburst 4. Well, if you have like a rookie and then a champion and then an ultimate while you have a Palmon in the trash, you can swing with this at security, it'll die, you'll get that Palmon underneath, and then you can just evolve into Nidhoggmon and boom, surprise your opponent with a Nidhoggmon out of nowhere. This play is one of my favorites to do in this deck, and I highly recommend playing this Palmon just for that reason. Up next to the level 3s, we have a super cool inclusion in my opinion in the form of 4 Goblymon and 2 Argamon, giving us 6 2-drop vanillas. Now, these cards have kind of been going down and down ever since 1.5 ended, but honestly, they're just such clutch cards. Having a wide board is always useful for download fodder, but having the ability to play more cards that can choke your opponent is super useful. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone second with this deck in the past and been forced to give my opponent 3 memory because all I play are 1-drop level 4s, and I didn't draw anything that's worth 2 or less. So having a high number of these for when you're going second is super clutch for not only building your board, but also for just slowing your opponent down. These cards are honestly staple in my opinion. And then finally, we have kind of a flex spot for me since I've been playing this deck. We have 3 copies of Lala. I find that once I see one of this, I never need more. And so if you feel like the deck needs more copies of Palmon, more 2-drop vanillas, or even some more tech cards like Terriermon to deal with all the memory gain effects out there, this is the slot that I would look at in terms of finding replacements. I actually think only playing 1 Lalamon makes a lot of sense because the second you see it, you can just keep recycling it if you really need that extra rookie. But other than that, Lalamon is a nice card. It's really good with Nidhoggmon because it lets you not only clear your opponent's board, but get the resource back. So if you have Mimi, you can utilize it and get some more filter going through your deck. But that's it for our level 3s. We are playing a good old 15. Always love seeing those high rookie counts in green decks. Moving on to level 4s, like I said, we are playing 12 1-drops, 4 Vegiemon, 4 Kabuterimon, and 4 copies of Weedmon, the new inclusion from BT5. So Weedmon, for those that don't know, has a super awesome when Digibursted effect to just gain 1 memory. So if you go for a Grand Kuaga, you can gain a memory whilst gaining plus security. If you go for a Lila, you can rest something and gain a memory. Heck, if you go for Nidhoggmon while you have Mimi in play and gain the memory off of it, you can choke your opponent at 1 whilst board wiping them. Super clutch card, really useful in this deck. And then we just have what I think are just generically the best 1-drops in green, in 4 Veggie and 4 Kabu. Green has and always probably will have this problem of too many good level 4s, so you just want to run some generically solid ones so that way you know you're playing the best cards possible. Vegiemon is really nice for that 6k body and cheap hard play cost, so if we need to build our board, we can do it for a little less than we would have if we had to hard play a Kabuterimon, for example. And then of course Kabuterimon, just solid, nice having blockers. They're just one of the best units in the game. There is an argument to playing Woodmon over this because it makes it harder for your Lord Nightmon opponents to kill them when they swing, but honestly there's other ways to play around Lord Nightmon that playing Woodmon really isn't needed. And having that consistency of always having a 1-drop evolution when you go first can honestly be really good, especially if your opponent is forced to give you 3 memory back, because a lot of decks aren't playing 2-drop level 5s. Speaking of not playing 2-drop level 5s, we're not in this deck. We have our standard download package of 4 Blasso and 1 Argo. This will always be good in green until we get this card unlimited. Please, Bandai, unlimit Argomon. He deserves to come back. And then, of course, we have 4 copies of Lilamon. This deck is just we're just gonna play the best Digiburst cards, and that's it. And Lilamon is one of the best. Yes, people play around her a lot, but not only is she a good way to sort of get rid of blockers in the late game, control your opponent in the early game, she also has a super awesome inheritable effect that I don't think is talked about enough, because we do play a high number of Tamers in this deck. Being able to just rest something when you swing, doesn't matter what it is really, really good. So this lineup is super solid in my opinion, and the only card I'd really consider playing in here is Cherrymon, but honestly, you don't need that. You're more aggressive than almost any other deck anyway, so you're gonna win that race most of the time, and being able to proc all of your Digiburst effects is really nice. Moving on to the bread and butter of this deck, and really any Digimon deck, let's be honest, we have the level 6s. Starting off, we have 4 copies of the promo Grand Kuagamon and 3 copies of Nidhoggmon. So I shouldn't need to tell you this is a green OTK deck. The entire deck is built around the interaction of Grand Kuagamon plus Chaosmon to do a ton of damage against your opponent in a single turn and set up game-winning plays. And Grand Kuagamon, thanks to its Digiburst being so accessible, now has some added utility thanks to things like Weedmon now existing in green decks. Following him for some nice sort of comeback plays or even follow-ups to big aggressive turns, we have Nidhoggmon, the king of control, the card that every single player needs to respect, and if they don't, you will just take over a game. I still find it unbelievable that this card was ever under $5. I think it's still under $5 as I'm making this video, which is just crazy. And now that we have more ways to sort of enable Nidhoggmon with the Palmon combo I showed you, I just think he gets even better. And until something like Ibanwumon comes out, I don't see him getting replaced as the King of Green anytime soon. The only other green card I would even consider playing in this deck as a level 6 is Rafflesiamon, and that's just so you can turn your, Baron Nidhoggmon into something else afterwards that has some nice utility, but honestly, this deck is a super tight machine. I'm not sure what you cut. Rounding out the Digimon, we have 2 copies of Chaosmon, sort of the facilitator for like the big 6 damage turn you can accomplish in this deck, but we're only playing 2, and that's because it's really not that important unless you're going for some crazy like surprise HPD Nidhoggmon turn or just the standard green OTK play, but honestly, being able to attack for just 3 damage with jamming is more than enough a lot of the time, and so this card really isn't needed to win games. It's just nice against like very specific situational boards, and if you draw HPD, it's always broken. So I feel like 2 is enough, especially given how like natural this deck is when it comes to drawing its cards. You're probably gonna see it if you really need it. But yeah, that's it for all the Digimon. Rounding off the entire deck, we have the support team in 3 copies of Mimi Tachikawa, the best tamer green will ever have. We have 1 copy of Hidden Potential Discovered, gotta play our one of, it is honestly bonkers whenever you see this, and a card that I've only ever seen Tuga Evo play, but I'm honestly so in love with, 1 Takumi Aiba. So anyone that's watched this channel knows I used to love playing the 2-drop green Izzy whenever I could in my green decks. I saw it as a guaranteed +1 every single turn. Well, that's actually not true. It can whiff and it requires you to have a level 5 in play. Well, Takumi, A, will never whiff, and B, only requires you to Digivolve, which this deck does all the time, especially with the access to our 2-drop evolutions. I cannot tell you how often I go for like a turn 1 play this, and then turn 2 evolve it for a 1-drop, choke my opponent, rest this, draw an extra card. Honestly insane, and you can do that every single turn this card is in play. Honestly, love Takumi Aiba. If you can fit 1 into your deck, I highly recommend you do so. And boom, there you guys go. That wraps up the green OTK deck list that I wanted to show off to you guys. Honestly, the deck is really powerful. Not only do you have a really awesome aggressive option in the form of Grand Kuwaga, Palmon, and Chaosmon, but you also have an absolute amazing comeback mechanic in Nidhoggmon. Honestly, if you ever do a full board wipe with Nidhoggmon, I don't care what you're playing against, you are winning that game. If you guys got any value out of this video or want to see more like it in the future, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And with that being said, I've been your true champion, Steven. Please be sure to work hard, rest easy, and live well. And I will see you all next time. Peace!